I'm Jeanette Keynes from Jewelry Arts Inc. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the different kinds of opals and the different kinds of gem treatments that you might want to look out for.
I always give her the my come hither. Yes, that's right. I'm ready, Mr. DeVille.
Making love to the camera.
It's my extra alluring look. Okay, so hi everybody. I'm Jeanette Keynes from Jewelry Arts. We are going to set an opal today. So opals are the kind of thing that they make a lot of people nervous because they're fragile, but they're also like deliciously beautiful. So everyone wants to use opals, but they're also afraid of opals. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to set them properly without, trauma, too much emotional trauma. And also the question came up about how do you know the difference between a doublet and a quote unquote real opal, and what difference does that all make? So I won't give you a whole dissertation on that, but an opal doublet basically has a very thin layer of opal, the colored material, and then they attach to the bottom of it some basic stone, usually the same kind of matrix stone that they're using, because opal a lot of times comes in these really thin little veins. So if they don't do that to kind of stabilize it a bit, you would never be able to use it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with doublets. I've set a million of them. I put them in my jewelry. Doesn't bother me in the least. But you should understand that is not going to be shouldn't be as expensive as like a bolder opal. Bolder opal means there's probably still some matrix in there. It may not all be colored material, but that's all just opal. Do you know what I'm saying? So how you can tell is this. If you look from the side of your opal, and you see a straight line between the colored opal part and the rest of it, then that's a doublet, because that's what they do. They kind of they cement them together. A bolder opal may have just dark matrix like this and the colors, but it'll never be a straight line. It'll always, just be irregular. And again, it's not that it's a doublet. It's, you know what I mean? But you have to know that it shouldn't be as expensive, and you shouldn't charge as much for it. You shouldn't pay as much for it, and you shouldn't charge as much for it. And you'll notice sometimes you'll look at a bolder opal that's like this, and I'm sure it would have been significantly more expensive than whatever it is you paid for this. For me, I think it's all good. All opals, all opals, all good all the time. There's also something called a triplet. I generally don't recommend them because I think they look a little janky. Because what they do with them, it's a thin layer of opal, and then they have the matrix on the bottom, and then they'll put a layer of a quartz crystal or something on top, because it's tough. You know what I mean? It's tougher and it won't break. And I feel like those are the kind of thing, if you take one of these, a bolder opal or the doublet, and once you set them in a bezel, you're not going to be able to really tell the difference between them. A triplet, you can tell. You know what I mean? I feel am I saying don't use one? Oh no. But it's not really as nice. Keep your eyes open for that. You know what I mean? That's not really something that I normally really would use in my jewelry, but to each your own. Because that's the whole thing with stones you always have to remember. It's I always feel I don't care what they do to it. I just want to know what it is, and so that I'm charged appropriately, and I charge. Treatments are not a bad thing. Like turquoise, for example. Turquoise, for example, is always stabilized because it's so porous that if you try to use it, I'll tell you a little story. Yeah, here we go. Basically, whenever you get a turquoise, it's usually stabilized, right? Which means it's kind of sealed so that it's not super porous anymore. Somebody came in and had one, and I was helping them make their piece, as I do, and I had a piece of red wax, put it on there, and because this was not treated, the red was into the surface of the stone. Now, the fun thing you may not know about being a teacher is if there's a fucking problem, it's your fucking problem. Now, you may not know also you can take Fabuluster and polish up a turquoise, and it works beautifully and amazing, and that's what I did, and everyone's happy in the end. But just so, don't automatically think to yourself oh, it's treated. Treatments can be good, important things. And yes, Susie was saying, heat. Sapphires have been heated since the beginning of time, for thousands of years, right at the mine. So first of all, when someone says that it's unheated, that's very unlikely to be true. There are some that are unheated, but Just know that. That's actually way more rare than you're ever gonna see. And it improves it, and it's permanent, and you know what I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. So all I'm saying is just don't necessarily think of treatment and think, oh, that means it's like not good or whatever. There are very different treatments. Results will vary.
What about smoke?
I'll say one more thing about treatments. The important thing to know, is it permanent, and am I paying appropriately for the treatment? You know, you don't want to like think it's a completely natural and it's supposed to be, you know, like someone showed me a ruby the other day. It was absolutely clean and perfect and like fluorescent pink, like, and I just looked at it and she's like, oh, look, I got this a couple years ago. And I was like, how much did you pay for it? She's like, I don't remember exactly. I'm like, it's not real. Because in other words, it was so perfect that if that was a natural ruby, it would have been
In the Museum of Natural History.
in the Museum of Natural History, exactly. And it probably was a lab created, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. And as it turned out, the price she paid was actually perfectly appropriate for the stone. So it wasn't really that she got cheated, but on the other hand, she thought the stone was something. And then if she made a piece of jewelry and sold it to someone, now she's lying. Not on purpose, but that's just why it's important to know. Nothing wrong with lab created stones. They're beautiful. It can be in certain ways a greener alternative. It's just always about know what you have, and then so that you can tell other people. And scene.